your Tuesday. I was gonna say Friday, I was gonna say Monday, and turns out it's Tuesday. Thank you for being here. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I want to make sure I talk about all the things that are of interest to you. I have started training a few new people, which is always super exciting because I just love variety. It's the spice of life. I love being able to have that impact on the health, fitness, and well-being of as many people as possible, basically. So there are a few things that I've noticed and a few questions I get on a regular enough basis that I wanted to cover because chances are, if one person has this question, many people have this question, and we don't have the time to get fit and healthy as it stands. We all think that takes forever, and it takes a long time. Not gonna lie, building muscle takes time. Being consistent over a long period of time is what actually moves the needle. And very few people have the patience to work at something for the duration required to see that change. So, if I can eliminate the guesswork, if I can give you some top tips, if I can streamline that process for you, then that is what I'm here for. Hope you are ready to dive deep. We're covering a few different elements of health and fitness. So, a question I get a lot is with regards to supplements and nutrition, of course. When it comes to supplements, a supplement should do just that. It should fill a nutritional gap, and we should identify gaps through things such as blood work, through logging foods, and kind of noticing where you may have recurring conditions and concerns. So, for example, if you constantly have infections, that could be symptomatic of having low zinc levels. Now, if we then make an effort to log your food, you may see that you don't get a lot of zinc through your diet, through your natural food choices. And of course, where possible, we want to supplement those gaps, though where we can, we would ideally get more of that element, more of that vitamin or mineral through food itself, such as pumpkin seeds, if you're looking for zinc. A lot of people I see taking supplements that are probably not worth their time. And so I wanted to highlight that. One of them being BCAAs, let's try that again, branched chain amino acids. Now, chances are we're going to get those amino acids being a protein through food. So if you make an effort to eat enough protein every single day, then a lot of the BCAAs are going to be completely redundant, a waste of your money and expensive urine. So there's that. If you absolutely need essential amino acids, EAAs, then you are much better off supplementing essential amino acids. Be mindful of the fact that if you take protein powder anyway, you are getting amino acids anyway. And again, if you are eating protein rich foods in your diet, such as seafood, such as poultry, such as red meat, if you're looking at beef, kangaroo, pork, lamb, oh my goodness, lamb. Does anyone else salivate when they say the word lamb? Maybe it's just me. Tofu, tempeh, for those of you who are vegans, vegetarians, even meat substitute products such as corn, Quorn, not Corn, that's different. You are probably getting enough amino acids anyway. So, branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, whilst they may taste tasty, and might be a way to sweeten your water, you're probably just better off having cordial, sugar free, even, depending on what your goals are. But that is definitely not the best use of your time or money. So just eat more protein. And again, try and get to that 1.5 gram per kilo body weight per day mark, which for someone who's 60 kilograms, that's going to be 90 grams of actual protein a day, not 90 grams of chicken breast, because that's only going to yield about 25 grams of protein itself. So there's that. I also see people taking multivitamins. I'm not necessarily for or against multivitamins, but I am for intelligent supplement choices. If you know that you are consistently low in a lot of vitamins and minerals, then you should probably just try and eat more vitamins and minerals. You should try and eat more vegetables and fruits on a regular basis. The suggestion is typically to eat 32 different plants and sources of plants every single week. So if we look at legumes, lentils, vegetables, fruits, even nuts and seeds, we're trying to get that number to be 32 when it comes to variety on a weekly basis. It's been noted that this is helpful in creating a healthy gut microbiome. So, what does that mean? When we talk about the environment of your stomach, we want that to be diverse. We want there to be different nutrients, different bacteria, both good and quote unquote bad, because this facilitates the development of a really healthy and robust gut microbiome. It's challenging to do this if we're always eating the exact same foods and if we only ever eat chicken and broccoli and rice. We're not getting enough diversity from such limited and restricted food choices. So whilst the whole if it fits your macros approach has a time and a place, what that completely overlooks is the diversity of food and micronutrients, being vitamins and minerals. Now, we can develop deficiencies if we don't get enough vitamin A, selenium, vitamin K, vitamin D, which of course is more sunlight related than food related, calcium, magnesium, etc., etc., etc. So to be a healthy human, it's not just are you getting enough calories, are you getting enough protein, carbs, and fats? It's also are you getting enough vitamins and minerals, and what is the diversity of your food choices? Because again, that is optimal for a healthy gut microbiome, which means you're going to be less likely to develop those deficiencies, to have digestive problems, to potentially have skin issues. Mood will be better regulated, energy will be better regulated, and that sounds pretty good to me. So multivitamins, look, I think if you're leaning into multivitamins and if you rely on them, then you should probably just eat more vegetables and more fruits and more lentils and nuts and seeds. That is going to serve you a lot better and be much more bioavailable to the body, meaning the body's ability to absorb and assimilate that is going to be much higher versus just taking all of these man-made pharmaceuticals. So that's worth considering. When it comes to supplements, what I definitely do suggest for pretty much every single person I've ever worked with is magnesium. Now, magnesium, the type you use makes a huge difference. There are some types which are going to be more aggressive on the stomach and going to be more likely to sit uncomfortably in the stomach, because we do use magnesium to induce too much information, but it has to be said, to induce things such as diarrhea for people who have had chronic constipation. So there are different uses for different forms of magnesium. I just lost a viewer, so that was too much for them. That makes me laugh. You guys, you need to know, okay? I need you to know, because I've worked with people who have taken magnesium oxide and magnesium citrate and wondered why their stomach was really uncomfortable when they took magnesium. This is why, and cheap supplements will use cheap, easy forms of magnesium, and that is going to backfire on you tremendously. I mean, it really can. So spending money on a good quality magnesium supplement is worth it, worth it, worth it, worth it, worth it. 110,000% in my opinion. 110,000 percent approximately. So the 3 in 8 magnesium 3 in 8 is the at the moment the creme de la creme, the best. Slightly down from that is the bisglycinated or bisglycinated potato, or a glycinated version. Okay, that's what you want to look out for. And typically we look at 400 milligrams per day. At nighttime, it's not a breakfast menu item. It can leave you feeling a little sleepy, a little chilled, a little zen-like, which is nice, but we probably don't want that in the morning. So magnesium bisglycinate or a glycinated form, or magnesium 3 in 8, 400 milligrams at nighttime with dinner. Food will help you to digest that. That's going to work nicely. Magnesium is critical in over 300 enzymatic functions in the body. So if magnesium is low, chances are there's a lot of things that are going to suffer as a result of that. We also know that magnesium is an electrolyte, so hydration is not just how much water you drink, it's the ability of the body to do something with that hydration. And that's where electrolytes play a role in pulling the hydration into the cell. So we like magnesium for that reason too. Now, if you're active, you are going to have to be more conscious of being hydrated. If you lose a liter of sweat through exercise, you actually need 2 liters to replace that lost liter. So it's a ratio of 2 to 1. It's a lot more than people realize. And if you live in Singapore, where it's 1,000% humidity all the time, and it's 32 to 34 degrees pretty much all the time, you are going to be more dehydrated than you realize. So for me, an active adult needs 4 liters a day if you live in this climate, like no joke. So one of my big hacks is, and it's not in here with me, but you've probably seen my big 2-liter water bottle. I get through probably 3 of those a day. Bearing in mind, I spend up to 3 hours a day exercising as well. And I'm on my feet. I'm awake from 4:30 in the morning until 9:30 on a better night at night. So I'm awake for a long time. I have an active job and I'm physically active myself in the gym. So that's why. But again, most people are far more dehydrated than they know. Magnesium is going to help with that. It's definitely worth taking. Other supplements that I think are worth your time and worth the effort are going to be creatine monohydrate. Now, this helps to produce power. Essentially, if we look at ATP, so adenosine triphosphate, and the ATP system, which is responsible for explosive movements and anything that takes between 0 and 15, even up to 20 seconds, depending on the person, depending how conditioned they are. So creatine is really powerful and impactful in producing ATP and the health of the ATP system, your ability to tap into that and use that. So you'll find once you've been taking it for a while that you just feel like you've got a little bit more oomph. You're a little bit more explosive. You're a little bit more powerful, that you don't fatigue as fast. Even recovery can be improved as a result of that. And it has powerful cognitive benefits too, which is quite interesting. So not just for physical health, but also for brain health and a few other great reasons we like creatine monohydrate. Now, in terms of taking creatine monohydrate, I personally needed to go through a loading phase. I know people will tell you you don't need to load, and that's cool. My situation was different. I had some serious symptoms that were not desirable, not great. Now, that's not to say that it's dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's the most widely researched and safest supplement known to human mankind. So, creatine is I need you to know it's super incredibly safe, absolutely worth your time. But do know, so for some people, they do experience some symptoms. There was a loading phase for me. I reached out to my friend who's a dietitian for support on that. She gave me some great suggestions. So if you are looking to do that, do it supervised so that your trainer or your dietitian or your nutritionist knows that you're going to be doing that. It can be really helpful to take carbohydrates at the same time that you supplement because it helps to draw the water into the cell, and you will experience water weight gain, which is normal. You should in fact gain water weight because arguably if you do not, then it's a very poor quality supplement, and you don't got time for poor quality supplements. Okay, so I did it towards the end of circuit breaker because I was like, hell, if I gain 1 or 2 kilos now from water retention, it doesn't matter. I'm not seeing anybody, nor is anyone seeing anybody. And so that was my experience. But I suggest doing it under supervision just so that you have that support. And so if you do have symptoms, you know what to look out for, you know how to tweak your approach based on that. Once you've gotten through the first 30 days, and again, that's when we typically see that water gain and fluid retention, which is temporary. It is temporary. That is when we start to feel the effects of that power output and explosiveness and resilience in training, improved endurance. Then we go to about 5 grams a day is the typical maintenance dosage. So it's a like teeny tiny scoop. It kind of looks like, how to explain? I don't want to say cocaine because I don't want to get deported, And I've never taken that, by the way. Don't at me. I've never touched drugs in my life. Not my thing. It's a fine powder, a white crystallized fine powder. Not quite sugar. It's a little bit more fine than that. So that's what it looks like. And you just dissolve it in water. You can dissolve it in pre-workout though. For some people, it's going to be too aggressive on their stomach. So just from a digestive standpoint, not always the best idea to combine the two. But there you go, creatine worth your time. Protein powder, I get asked a lot about protein powder, and I don't blame you because there are so many supplements on the market. There's so many protein powders on the market. There's so many types of protein powder, and there's a good reason for that. It's a convenient way to get more protein into your diet. I think done is better than perfect. If you're a busy person and you don't always have the time to sit down and have a meal, then it makes sense to supplement. I prefer that people use it as a snack or a filler in their diet rather than a meal. I don't think a protein shake should be counted as a meal. It's not enough calories, it's not enough nutrients. I mean, there's no real vitamins and minerals, it's amino acids, right? Hence it's a protein powder. That kind of makes sense. There's no healthy fats in there. Certainly no nuts and seeds, avocados, coconut oil. So I don't think that counts as a meal. Though if you are working out at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're not going to be eating until 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. because you're having a later lunch, then for me it makes sense to have some protein after your workout because we want muscle protein synthesis to be supported by the intake of obviously protein in the diet. We typically like to get in that protein no more than 3 hours after finishing that workout. Okay, you're not going to go anabolic, catabolic if you don't have it within half an hour, but we do like to support the muscle protein synthesis by taking protein in, obviously in food form, within 3 hours after finishing a workout. So I do like protein powders because they're convenient for people. I think what you choose is dependent on a few things, whether you can do dairy or not. Whey protein is very lactose free, though not entirely free of lactose. So you should know that if you can't do dairy and if you're very sensitive to dairy or lactose, then maybe not the best idea for you. I personally like soy because for me, soy protein powder digests well. I am lactose intolerant. I've tried whey. I've tried several different types of whey. Some are okay, but I still often have some sort of reaction, even if it's 2 or 3 days in a row. My stomach just doesn't love it. So that is my personal preference. I find the soy to be very filling. I find it blends really well. I like the texture. I know the pea and brown rice protein powders can be very gritty, and it's not the personal preference of a lot of people for the texture. But again, like you do you, boo. If you like the brown rice protein powders, the pea protein powders, and or if you're vegan and that's more your style, then go for it. Okay. The main thing is that it digests well. That is super important. We can't say enough about good digestion, and poor digestion is very draining. It robs you of your energy, and you don't have time to not, have the energy that you deserve to have. So anything that slows down your ability to digest and has a negative interference with that, I would say be mindful of, pay attention to that, and look at where you can do better. So, bear in mind that the whey protein powder is very, very fast absorbing. It's designed to do that. Because of that, it may not be so filling. You may find the soy to be more filling and or the brown or pea rice. I will shout out some names of companies because people ask me for recommendations all the time. When it comes to the magnesium I was mentioning, here in Singapore, we have a brand called Proteus, Proteus. Proteus Nutrition, I am a huge fan of the magnesium. They do a bisglycinate. I suggest that to all my clients, and within 3 days of taking it, my clients are like, where has this been my whole life? I am sleeping so well. I absolutely recommend that to every single person. Their protein powders, in my opinion, are the best tasting protein powders ever in existence. I love their red velvet flavor. They have a banana and vanilla, I think. It's banana and something. I really like that flavor. They have 2 vegan options as well. And I just love the different flavors that they have. Very different, like out of the ordinary, but not crazy. So they have a number of whey options and 2 vegan options last I checked. I also like Lush Protein. They do a soy protein powder. They are also a local company. And who else do we have? At the moment, I'm using My Protein soy protein powder. I like their flavors, salted caramel, hard to go wrong. I'm trying Banoffee, which is that like, it's kind of like salted caramel, but not like salted caramel. I don't know, it's working for me. I like it. What else have I tried flavor-wise? Coconut, I like their coconut flavor. Actually, coconut is delish. So there's a few different brands that you can turn to if you're not sure. So Proteus Nutrition in Singapore, they also ship to, I believe it's Malaysia, Indonesia, I want to say Thailand, but please don't quote me on that. And then Lush Protein, which also does a soy protein. And they are also, I believe, shipping to Malaysia and probably a few other countries in Southeast Asia. So they are my go-tos. For creatine, look, you can also go to Proteus because they do have a creatine. So that would be my suggestion there if you're looking for a suggestion. Okay, in terms of supplements, what I also like for especially people who work really long hours, which I think is probably everybody, people who have a stressful job, people who do long haul flights on a regular basis, I like to incorporate adaptogens, which basically help the body to, in a sense, combat stress, process stress, and can reduce the oxidative stress of free radicals. So different ones that I turn to typically are going to be ashwagandha and rhodiola. I've used both. Currently using ashwagandha. I notice when I don't take this, which is quite interesting, within 2 weeks of not taking ashwagandha, I feel a bit more on edge. I feel a bit more anxious. I definitely don't feel quite as emotionally resilient, is probably the best way I can phrase it. Oh my God, Sonia, hi. Blast from the past. Amazing to have you here. Let me know if you have any questions, please. No one's asked any questions yet, so I can only assume you're just here for the ride and enjoying the show. But anything specific you want me to address, let me know, please. So we're talking about adaptogens. And ashwagandha, you can get in the Goli gummy. That is the brand, Goli, Goli. I have seen Watson's here in Singapore. Also on Lazada is where I typically get it. Okay, the dosage. I'm taking 4 gummies a day in 2 lots of 2. Typically in the afternoon, early afternoon is a suggested time to be taking ashwagandha. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, this one, because weirdly kind of relaxes you, but it's also a stimulant, if that makes sense. So it's a very talented little property to have both qualities. So it's going to leave you feeling zen, but also alert, but without the spike that you get from caffeine, if that makes sense. So this is perfect if you have like a presentation at night, 7, 8, 9 p.m., and you're with another time zone. You have to be in the zone, but you don't want to take coffee at 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. because you know that the crash and burn is just going to be way too substantial. It's going to actually really set you back and make it impossible to sleep because you're going to be buzzing too much. So what I love in this instance is either caffeine taken with L-theanine, which could be like a chamomile tea, so not in the same beverage, but a coffee and a chamomile tea, sipped separately, because the L-theanine from the chamomile is going to help to kind of cut out the crash and burn that you get from the caffeine. But obviously the caffeine is going to like lift you up, give you that little boost. Alternatively, ashwagandha can have similar effects on people as well. Some people take it before bed. My boyfriend takes it before bed. I feel just a bit too like wound up is maybe not the right expression, but I do feel like my heart rate is a bit too high and I feel mentally too switched on when I take it at nighttime, and like then game over, I'm not sleeping. So I actually took it not long ago. And I feel great. I just feel very focused. I feel very in the flow, very much in the swing of things, very in the zone. So I like it for that reason. So that is ashwagandha. Rhodiola, easy to find on iHerb, a very well researched, well documented supplement, which can really facilitate the dialing down of anxiety. So if you've got a lot of sources of stress at the moment, let's say maybe you're ending a relationship, going through a divorce, moving house. I'm not talking about my own life, but that has happened to me in recent times. Maybe your pet just passed away, in which case I'm very sorry because that would be really sad. So let's say you have more sources of stress than usual. Rhodiola can be enormously helpful, and I do say this from my own personal experience too. I think timing wise, best taken at a similar time of day because it is a little bit of a stimulant, but also helps the body process stress, so it will kind of zen you out. I believe early afternoon is a great time to be taking it. Commenting on dosage, I don't want to do because I'm not looking at the right information right now to give you that. But again, easy to find a good quality rhodiola supplement from iHerb. I've done it myself, taken it myself. Rhodiola is RHODIOLA, if you're wondering. And I found that really, really, really helped when I was going through a really stressful period in my life where I just had like sky high anxiety. And I just felt like I couldn't get on top of it myself. I was doing all the like big breaths, everything will be okay. But within my own self, I just found it very challenging to regulate my emotions. And rhodiola enormously, enormously, enormously helped me during that time. Very safe from all the research that we have, very well documented, very well studied as an adaptogen. It's one of the more popular ones that people gravitate towards and use and find to be beneficial. So there's a few supplements that I just mentioned that I think are worth your time. What I don't think is worth your time is branched chain amino acids. You're just going to get that from protein rich foods. So just take the protein rich foods and then you get all the benefits of the vitamins and minerals from that food as well. And then multivitamins, if you're relying on them, you should probably just eat more fruit and vegetables. Just get more diversity into your diet. And I just don't see the greatest need for them if you're covering those bases through food. So, to me, not the best way to spend money. That's just my personal opinion, but that's what you're here for. So, that's what you get. If we look to exercise, oh gosh, I could go on for days about this. What is not so worth your time, in my opinion? If your goal is to get stronger and build muscle, HIIT classes. My God, would they just fuck off and die? Yes, you know who you are. You're probably watching this. I am just not going to stand behind that and say that that is a great addition to the health and fitness industry because when time is the metric, technique cannot be. And for me, technique has to always be the number one priority in health and fitness classes, settings, training, because it's your job to keep a person safe. You can't keep a person safe if they're rushing through something and if they're doing something purely to get as many reps in as they can. And more reps is not always better, by the way. And so this leads me to my next point, which is you should get strong across all rep ranges. I see way too many people in condo gyms, and I don't train people in their condo gyms, but I myself have a condo gym and have seen enough people exercise there to tell you that I see the same shit all the time, the same routine, people doing the same routines, the same exercises, the same rep ranges, the same weight. Okay, that is not the best use of your time to always be doing 3 sets of 15 for everything, which unfortunately seems to be the default for a lot of people. It's 3 times 15, 3 times 15, 3 times 15. And this was a big thing I changed in my own training, whereas in the past, I guess, 3 years, maybe more than that, maybe a bit more than that. But anyway, it's a big thing that I've changed and benefited from changing, which has been to get strong in the 4 to 6 rep range or 4 to 8 rep range, as well as the 8 to 12 rep range, as well as the 12 to 15 rep range, and sometimes above 15 reps as well. So we get different benefits from using these different repetition ranges. When you're always doing times 15, yes, you're working on endurance, that's great, but you're never really going to get better at the movement and the technique if you're not getting close to failure, first and foremost. And then two, the benefit of doing heavier weights for fewer reps is the neurological benefit. So it's all well and good to have strength, but how good is your ability to connect with that strength and tap into that strength? When you're always doing times 15 reps, and especially if those 15 reps are easy, your brain is not making an effort to understand the movement on a deeper level. It's not getting more efficient at doing that movement because it's just like 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. Now, when you are lifting a weight that is so heavy, you can only do 4 to 6 reps. My God, every fucking muscle has to be on, or it's not going to happen. You have to be in the zone, Sasha fucking Fierce, focused. Your core, look, if you're doing back squats, and I say this because I was doing squats yesterday, your core has to be on. Your back has to be on. Where you look has to be, the right angle. You have to be looking at the right thing. If you're looking too much in the mirror, you might be distracted. If you're looking too much at the floor, you may not come up with a very efficient, you might not push out of your squat very efficiently, is what I'm trying to say. Your stance has to be very on point. If your feet are slightly too turned out, it's not going to work. If your stance is too narrow, it's not going to work. So that is what you think about, and that's what goes through the mind when you're lifting at that threshold. You're not going to get to the point of understanding your movement and getting that much more efficient at a movement if you're always doing 15 repetitions, because you're never asking the body to do that. So in movement and exercise, you have to think about what you're asking of the body. Are you asking your body to get stronger? Are you asking, what demand are you placing on your body? Because your body's very smart and will adapt. But you have to think about the stimuli and what demand you are putting on the body based on that stimuli. So if you're not asking the body to get more efficient at something because you're not going 4 to 6 reps, then you shouldn't be surprised that you don't get more efficient at that movement, or that your understanding of that movement doesn't improve. Again, it's one thing to have strength, it's another thing to be able to tap into it. And yesterday is a perfect example of me not being able to tap into my strength. Why? I woke up and felt like I was hit by a bus. I don't know what happened. I went to bed at a good time. I thought I had a good sleep. Turns out my body disagreed. I actually was feeling a bit under the weather yesterday, so I think maybe my central nervous system was just like, just stay in bed. And of course I didn't do that because girl has to work. And that's okay. That's my choice. I own that. But my point being, it's one thing to have strength. It's another thing to be able to access it. You get better at being able to connect with your strength and understand how to use it when you work at a greater intensity. And by intensity, I mean a few things. I mean going in that smaller rep range. So again, the 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 and above, but especially that lower rep range. So 4 to 6. And 2, getting to the closer to failure when you are exercising. So not just getting to your 12th rep and making a face and be like, oh, yeah, you should be doing 6 reps like that, not just 1. I mean, my metric is your last 5 reps on your first working set should be tough. Okay. And a lot of people don't even get to do 1. You should be making faces, swearing, spluttering, threatening your trainer that you're going to walk out, be like, bye, bitch, done with you. I don't want to see you again. I'm done. All those things. When I'm training really hard, I get mascara prints on my eye, on my brow bone, because I'm squinting so intensely that I'm leaving mascara on my brow bone. Okay, that's when I know I've tried really hard. So if you're not pulling faces and getting mascara on your brow bone, you ain't trying. Okay, you should be grunting. You should be making noises. There should be effort. There should be force. And until you reach that point, you're not working intensely. You should have your muscles want to stop, and you find a way to make them keep going. That's how you get more efficient at the movement. That's how you build strength, by by creating mechanical tension. And mechanical tension is what drives, building of new strength and getting stronger. That's what a lot of you are here for. If you want to get stronger, you need mechanical tension. Mechanical tension means you need to get to that point of wanting to stop because it feels so heavy, but then push through that and learn how to do the movement even though it feels really heavy and feels like you're going to fail. a lot of people don't get anywhere near to that. They just train very comfortably. And again, they usually get to 15 reps and they're like, okay, next. And they use the 5 kilo dumbbells for everything, for shoulder press, for bicep curls, everything, you name it. That is not how we move the needle when it comes to getting stronger. So to add to that, a 20-minute warm-up where you're just running through activation exercises, that to me is a great waste of time. Your muscles and tendons and ligaments and everything else should activate when you use them. So like when you start squatting, your muscles should activate. Like you should get that external rotation at the hip. You should be keeping the ribs depressed. You should be engaging your glutes and hamstrings to push out and using more of your quad as you get towards the top. Your core should be on. I don't feel that there's a need to pre-activate everything before you use it. You should use it when you use it. Does that make sense? It just seems unless you have an injury or had an injury, or unless you know that there's like a weak link in a kinetic chain somewhere. So for me, my external rotation on my left leg is not so great. There's something at my left hip which doesn't fire. I'm not as neurologically connected with that bit of my left hip as other parts of me. So that is something for me to be conscious of and something for me to be proactive in working on. But I've identified this and I've worked with a physio in this, and so I know what to do and what is worth my time when it comes to that. But a lot of people will do like 1,000 lateral banded walks to activate their glutes and then like do a goblet squat with 8 kilos. I'm like, huh? I mean, you're better off just going 10 kilos and doing 5 lateral banded walks or 10. It's just not the best use of time. So for me, there's no real reason to pre-activate things. They should activate when you use them. So like just be mindful of using your glutes when you do exercises that require your glutes to be on. Just be more mindful of using your lats when you're doing a lat-based exercise. And outside of that, if you have the bandwidth and time to focus on that specific muscle or joint or what have you, then great, go for it. Just not, again, the best use of your time. You're better off getting more mindful in the moment rather than trying to pre-activate things. They should switch on when you switch them on, unless you have some sort of neurological condition where that doesn't happen. And that's a different story. So that is also not the best use of your time, in my opinion. Typically, the more functional a movement is, the less worth your time it is. So if we talk about like kettlebell swings, TRX, everything, BOSU, anything and everything, the more fun and extra it may seem, typically the less worth your time it is. But people don't like doing basics because that seems boring. But unfortunately, the people who get the furthest tend to have the greatest tolerance for boring. They have the greatest tolerance for repetition. They have the greatest tolerance for doing mundane things really well. So squats, lat pull downs, lunges, farmer carry, shoulder press are some great examples. The fun looking things that require you to use 3 different pieces of equipment all at the same time while standing on one leg and balancing a beach ball on your nose, that's fun looking and Instagrammable, but it's not going to get you stronger. Certainly not the fastest way possible. So functional movements to me are squats. Functional movements to me are deadlifts. Functional movement to me are, dislocation, shoulder dislocates with a dowel. Improving range of motion of the shoulders, upper back, neck, which we could all do with a little bit more of, especially the people I work with who travel long haul flights, who are in back-to-back meetings all day long. That is of greater value than getting them to stand on a BOSU and squat whilst holding onto a TRX and doing, I don't know, like a single arm bicep curl or something bullshit. So that's just my opinion there. Moving away from, one more point on exercise. Look, if you like running, go for it. But I'm not the biggest fan of running. For me, I would rather someone increases their daily step count and hours spent standing rather than going for a 45, 60-minute run and then sitting for the other, 18 hours of the day and then sleeping for 5 or 6. So that to me is not terrible. Again, if you like it, go for it. For some people, it has great mental health benefits. They like being able to run, to be able to get in the zone, to be able to have that headspace to themselves where they can just kind of be focused on their breath and focused on their running. And if you like running, like, great. For me, it works if there's a tsunami. It's great if there's a really good sale, like 70% off, then I'll probably run, especially if it's, Longines. But outside of that, my preference is that people are mindful of how much time they spend on their feet versus sitting, and how many steps, again, they get in a day. If you're in an office job, you're probably not getting 4,000 steps a day, just on average from what I've observed. So I would much rather someone is more active throughout the whole day rather than active for a very short period of time and then super sedentary the rest of the day. There's greater health benefits to being on your feet more often, rather than super active and then totally not active at all. That's my take on that. When it comes to exercise too, a lot of people are focused on calories and how many calories they burn. This is the issue I have with HIIT classes. People are like, oh my God, I did 550 calories. Maybe you did. And then chances are you're either going to eat more because you think you're justified to eat more because you burn so many calories. Or you're just going to, again, spend the rest of the day sitting. So I don't like how extreme that can encourage people to be, to focus on calories burned. I don't think it's a redundant measurement, but if we look at an hour of lifting weights, it's gonna be somewhere between 350 and 450 calories for an hour on average. And again, I don't think that's a very good way to quantify the efficacy of a workout. I think what a greater indication was how hard did you find that exercise, and how hard was it for you to persevere in doing all the reps for that exercise when you were doing it. So not how sore you were the next day, that is somewhat an indication, but what is more important to me is, did those last 5 reps hurt? Did you have to push yourself to finish those last 5 reps? Or were you like, yeah, I could do another 10? Because that is clearly not going to move the needle on your health and fitness goals. So calories, look, to be taken with a pinch of salt. I think what we should focus on instead is the intensity, again, that mechanical tension, which we get from using the correct rep range, from using the correct weight, more so than just how many calories you burned. Anyone can get up and go for a run and burn a ton of calories and then have really shit food choices and then spend the rest of the day sitting on their bum. That's not really going to help you. So, all within context, and 350 to 450 calories for an hour of lifting weights is not terrible, but it's not really an indication that you got stronger either. And if your goal is to get stronger, then what you need to focus on is looking at progressive overload. So progressive overload being that every time you do an exercise, you're either lifting more weight, so you went from 10 kilos to 12.5, or you're doing more reps, so you went from 10 reps to 12 reps. And over time, we see that obviously that adds up, and maybe you started with 10 kilos for a goblet squat, and now you're up to 25, which is phenomenal. And that's huge progress. And that's how we get there. It's not from going from 10 to 25. Obviously, that would be not so safe, but progressively. So every session, it's 1 more rep or 2 more reps, or it's 1 more kilo or 2 more kilos. And over time, that adds up tremendously. Progressive overload should be the focus when it comes to moving the needle on strength-related goals, not how many calories you burn. That's not gonna, how many calories I burn is pretty irrelevant when I'm trying to back squat 120 kilos. My body doesn't care how many calories I've burned. My body cares about how present I feel, how alert I feel, how in the moment I feel, in tune with my body, whether I've got the right music playing, whether I'm focused, whether I feel distracted, whether my belt is tight enough, whether my shoelaces are tight enough, whether the bar is centered to the rack. All those factors come into play much longer before I think about caloric burn. So that's worth factoring in. When it comes to equipment too, I wanted to touch on equipment that I find to be helpful and worth your time is going to be heel raises. So getting shoes, I know the Nike Metcons, some of them have inserts where you can elevate your heel, especially for people who have dorsiflexion issues or ankle mobility issues. That can be tremendously helpful. It's going to allow you to get better range of motion into your squat, get better hip and knee flexion, which would otherwise be compromised by having a flat foot. And I don't mean someone without an arch, I mean just having your foot flat on the ground. So elevating the heels can make a huge difference. You can use plates to do that if you don't have lifting shoes, or if you don't have those heel inserts from the Metcons. What you can also do is use a heel raise, so it looks like a little ramp. We have like 2 or 3 of them in the gym. A metal ramp, it's, I don't know, like 30 centimeters long, maybe at a slight angle, so you can walk up it. Obviously, the higher you go, the greater the incline. That can make a big difference when it comes to getting that depth on your squats. And yeah, I mean, if you can squat deeper, you're going to recruit more muscles, which is going to get you stronger. So that's really good. Also, in terms of mobility, so we want to have obviously good range of motion at the hips as well as the ankles, and using the heel raise can be tremendously helpful in facilitating that. Other bits of equipment I like a lifting belt when I'm lifting 80 or 85% over my maximum for squats and deadlifts, especially. Bent over rows for sure. Standing overhead press also with my clients for deadlifts and for back squats for sure. And lifting straps, because what is more distracting than feeling like you're going to let go of a bar because your forearm strength is like dying? That is so distracting. I don't have time for that. My clients don't have time for that. I like the Harbinger, just normal loop strap. I don't know, we put one in through the loop and it goes around the bar or around the kettlebell or the dumbbell. That's my preference. Super durable. I've had the same pair for like 3 years. I put them in the wash every month or every other week, and they're really, really, really good for my clients as well. Same thing. So that equipment for me is way better than a Bosu, is way better than a TRX. Get yourself a good lifting belt, some good lifting shoes, not the chunky, stylish, cute shoes which look like you're walking on a, I don't know, a freaking 10 centimeter cloud. Why are people walking around in shoes this thick? Like, what is that about? No, just get even soled shoes to lift in. No taper. There should be no thick bit at the back and smaller bit at the toe. It should just be the same consistency from heel to toe. There should be like barely any drop off. They are going to be the best to lift in for most people who just walk around the gym lifting weights. The chunky, clunky, cushiony shoe. Don't wear running shoes to the gym. Like, public service announcement, stop wearing running shoes to the gym. Wear your running shoes to run. And if you think they're cute and you want to wear them outside, do that. Don't wear them to the gym unless you're running in the gym, okay? Lifting shoes are different to running shoes. Like, learn the difference. That's my rant over. So running shoes are great if you're running. If you're going to the gym, get gym shoes, please. Thank you on behalf of all trainers. What else did I want to say about equipment? Yeah, shoes, footwear, be mindful of it. Belt. Love a good lifting belt, especially if you're doing back squats and deadlifts. Love. Lifting straps, yes. And especially if you have small hands, because gym equipment is not designed with female hands in mind. I don't have the smallest hand in the world. I also don't have the biggest hand in the world. And I find some phones and perfume bottles to be chunky for me. So if I'm like an average sized female, I'm 163 cm. I'm not overly tall. I'm not overly short. I'm kind of like fun size, pocket size. That's saying a lot. So especially if you have female clients, if you're a trainer watching this, if you have female clients, good suggestion is to get them some lifting straps, because it's going to make it really so much easier to grip. And then you can focus on your technique and not focus on trying to not like let the weight fly out of your hands. And we don't want that. One more point I want to make, which kind of goes back to nutrition, not so much supplements, but just what to eat before training, is a lot of people trying to cut out carbs because they think carbs are the devil, and like keto had a moment there. What I like is carbs 60 to 90 minutes before training, not just for myself, but the people I work with. So banana are my go-tos. Coconut water, also love, especially if you're doing a longer session, or if you feel dehydrated, if you've been on a long haul flight, if you are just doing more exercise than usual, if you've had food poisoning, if you've been unwell Coconut water can especially help to rehydrate. I also love the Nun effervescent tablets, N-U-U-N. You can get from cold storage. I think some chemists in Singapore as well. iHerb as well. Thank me later. One in water before training, one in water during training, especially if you're exercising outdoors. If you're going for a hike, playing a tennis game, football game, you need to hydrate beforehand. Do not start drinking water during training. Drink it before you get to training. Pre-hydrate. And they have electrolytes in them. They have different types of effervescent tablets. But if you look for the sport one, it's going to have some magnesium, it's going to have some sodium, it's going to have some phosphorus, potassium, probably some calcium as well. So that's a really great way to hydrate ahead of time and worth your time. It's hydrating. Always take the time to hydrate. That's worth your time. You'll perform so much better cognitively as well. So we perform better cognitively when we're hydrated. And again, carbs before exercise is actually very, very smart, as well as caffeine. If you like caffeine, if you can stomach caffeine, it's a good suggestion. Always recover with protein. So protein after training is always a good idea. No harm in having some beforehand, no harm in having protein before training, but especially afterwards. So they're my go-tos when it comes to nutrition surrounding training. Some people are like, cut out your carbs. And I'm like, no, if you want to build strength, you need them, because that's going to be the fuel source to your exercise. So again, I love bananas, coconut water. If you're doing longer forms of exercise, so if you're going to go for a 2-hour hike or let's say a triathlon, you're going to want something a bit more substantial, such as whole wheat pasta, rolled oats even. And then for extended periods of exercise as well, coconut water can be really, really helpful in keeping you hydrated there in a natural way. So that's a benefit there. Salt in water before exercise, also good because salt is an electrolyte as well. Good quality sea salt. I like Celtic, CELTIC, can get from iHerb, can get from Lazada, Redmart. High mineral profile, very mineral dense, and a great way to stay hydrated in Singapore. So in your water, just a good pinch before training, good idea, and an easy way to look after yourself. So if you liked this, give it a double tap so I know. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you when I see them. I hope you liked this one. I always want to talk about what you want to hear about, so leave me your suggestions for my next live, and I look forward to seeing you in the next training.